Hello and welcome everyone to the Call of the Wild the Hunter. Today we are going to wait a minute. That's not right. Scratch that. Hello everyone and welcome to Call of the Wild the Angler. Today we are going to go out and do some fishing, which we haven't done in a while. And today I am going to do a little bit of learning as we'll get into it there. But before we get started, there's a few things you should know. One, I've tried to set up how I fish here to be sort of similar to the hunting style, and I turned off all the cues and stuff with the strikes and things like that for when a fish gets on the line. I'm going strictly by the feel of my controller and the visuals on the screen, so you'll see that. You won't see any of those cues popping up. To say this was a interesting experience is an understatement. I had a lot of fun out here. I learned a lot, and it was just a whole bunch going on. So I do hope you guys enjoy it. I will be keeping a tally, which I will show up at the end of the video here of the different techniques and styles I used and how effective they were. So you can see that when I get done. But until then, let's go ahead and get started into this. Now, while I'm going to be getting schooled here later, the first couple hours of my sessions wasn't actually doing any of that. I was actually going around and still unlocking, exploring the reserve, and find locations and things like that, which you'll see here as I go along. So this first part you'll see here is all the towers I ended up going around and unlocking. So here's the few that I still had to get. And in unlocking these towers, I also got a little bit more of the story open up. Some of these things were ended up repeated, but I decided to put them all together here in one story for you.
The human history of the park itself began at least 11,000 years ago, when the ancestors of the contemporary Shoshone began to hunt and fish in the region. Obsidian, which you'll see dotted around the park, was a key part of their culture. Obsidian was used to make cutting tools, weapons, and especially arrowheads. Those arrowheads have been found as far as the Mississippi, which means the locals were likely trading the precious stone to other tribes. Golden Ridge Reserve. What's in the name, huh? Well, this one dates all the way back to the late 18th century. French trappers named the park Crête d'Or. When explorers first entered the region in 1805, they met the Nez Perce, Crow, and Shoshone tribes in the area. Later, American trappers rendered the French name in English as Golden Ridge Reserve. I quite like the old moniker, but hey, the new one's not too shabby.
In addition, there were other trailhead cabins and outposts that it was unlocked so I could fast travel to later as well. These are the last few of those I needed to get. And through the course of my travels, I had some interesting experiences as I was wandering around, exploring the reserve. Some of them while I was walking, and some while I was driving. Hitting trees, getting ricocheted around. And here's one I have no idea how I got this accomplished, but I was able to get myself completely stuck where I could not get this Jeep moved out of here at all for the life of me. I don't know what I did. It's a one in a miracle chance, but regardless, I'm gonna need a tow truck. But besides getting stuck in that tree, this is a road that I was supposed to travel up in the Jeep, which should have been clear, but you could see how much debris was on here. I think the park warden needs to come out here and do a little bit of cleaning so I can go ahead and drive this a lot better. And lastly, I decided I wanted to try to be a mountain goat here. And I'm surprised that I didn't injure myself drastically by scaling the side of this cliff here. But you can see I got down it without any rappelling gear and safely without injuring myself in any way, shape, or form. On top of that, I was also trying to complete some of the warden objectives and missions for the reserve. In this case, this was the Bigfoot track that I needed to
You sure
unlock.
about that, sport? You're telling me you seen more of that Bigfoot business? Four down.
as well as some of these water buoys that need to be taken care of.
You figured out the forecast yet? I was hoping to stretch my legs a little, but I couldn't read those robots if they paid me. Halfway through, tell me if you get yourself an angler.
And this was surprised that I was able to see this bone on the side of this cavern here as I was driving through, but I was able to unlock it as well.
Well, that's two of them rickety vertebrae checked off. Sure look kiddos will dig it.
Plus, I picked up a few more articles along the way at the different locations. Some of them harder than others. But this one, for whatever reason, it glitched. You could see that all the lettering got messed up on there, and it happened for a while here with the next few things I picked up, including this mission board that I came to. You can see how it's completely unreadable at this point. So I had to end up actually resetting my game in order to get this cleared up and fixed, but it didn't last too much longer other than this portion. So my first 2 hours weren't all just exploring. I was also trying to do some fishing here as well. Unfortunately, because I hadn't started the schooling aspect, I was going off my last experiences, which is just me going in, throwing some stuff in the water and hoping for the best to try and catch a fish. Well, that didn't work out too well for me, and you can see here, I didn't really have any good luck. When my other fishing failed, I decided I wanted to try to come to the location with one of the objectives. In this case, this location right here, to go ahead and try and catch myself a salmon. So after finding the location, I did cast and throw my line a couple times, hoping for the best. Unfortunately, this didn't work out for me as well. And in addition, I also had a couple of bad casts. I also came to this photo challenge here to try and find it, and after about 35 minutes of searching, I found the location. Unfortunately, I didn't actually do any fishing at this point, but I do know where it's at now to come back and look at it later. Once all that was done, I decided to return back to the main outpost there and try my luck at some of the locations that I had done a little bit of fishing on for the training for bottom feeding, and I had caught a couple fish there. So I figured, why not? I'll give them a chance and see if I can actually have any more luck at it. Unfortunately, after a few casts, I still didn't pull anything in. So after fishing for 2 hours with no luck, I decided I was going to try Taylor's Tackle Academy to see how it would actually help me out. And therefore, this is where my adventure begins, and I unlocked the mission and started forward. I did make sure to pick up an item along the way, though. Now, before we get started, I want to show you where I was at after my last few sessions coming into the game and playing it. I haven't gotten much done. I've only found 6 fish, and the highest one I was able to get was a silver. I will come back to this later once I've gone through the entire academy and show you my progression. So with the academy begun, I headed down to the pier, and I got my first notifications of what I needed to do. After taking the appropriate steps, I went ahead and got myself geared up and ready to go. And I cast my line. And I cast it again. And after waiting around for a while, decided to look out there, and I saw that there was a fish coming in, which I was grateful for. And sure enough, it bit pretty quickly. And after a little fight, short one, I was able to reel this guy in. What can I say? What a crappy fish. But it helped me progress my learning, and I advanced further into the course. So taking my knowledge, I adjusted my depth on my line up and down as they desired it to be, just to show that I could do it. And I set it and let it fly a couple times. And within a short period, I had another bite. Reeling this one in, it was yet another crappy fish. This time worse than the first one. But it helped me to finish that first class. And with the beginning challenge done, I has now given it a task to accomplish. I had to catch myself 5 fish. So I quickly set into it, tossing my line out repeatedly, over and over again. Finally, after a few attempts, I was able to get another bite. And after a short retrieval, well, my luck wasn't holding out. This wasn't my day. But I was able to get another one out there. Again, within a small period of time, I was able to bring this one in. And yet, another small, crappy fish. I don't know, what can I say? Will I do better? I don't know. But hopefully this class will help me out. As I continued, my persistence paid off. And I got yet another crappy fish. With 2 down, 3 more to go, I kept at it. I need to get this done so I can complete my task. And for a change of pace, I was able to pull in the sunfish this time. Small little guy still, wasn't much, just a little bronze, but he helped add to the total. At the same time, I also learned about adding these markers to the map. Something I really wish that the Hunter Colorado would add as well. But this was very helpful for me to mark down to know in the future where to come back to. And I started using this all around the reserve. This is just the first location. And with 3 fish under my belt, threw the line in, and within a few seconds, I was able to get another one on. And retrieving them, this is probably one of my smallest black crappies yet, but hey, it adds to the total. 1 more to go. And here he is, number 5, the big winner. Another black crappie. Bigger than the last one though, so I can't complain. With my 5 out of 5 fish completed, I was told to go back to the challenge board. So, heading that way, I found that my first challenge was completed and new ones were ready. Here I began Taylor's Tackle Beginner Class Level 2. With my next objective to create a rod, I headed back to the stand to talk to Taylor. In the process, I figured, you know what, I needed a shave. Once I got done cutting my beard off, I took the opportunity and set up my rod the way that they asked for the class. With that completed, Taylor gave me a new location to go to. So I head down to the dock and I rented a boat. But before I was going to get over there, you'll see that there's a marker off there in the distance. That's something I wanted to do as well, which is another one of these location objective missions. So before I got over to continue on the class, I made a little detour over here. Skirting around the shoreline. I docked my boat and proceeded to head up into the hills. And I found a watering hole that I hadn't unlocked yet. One of the things I needed to accomplish here was to catch a smallmouth bass, which I did accomplish before I left the island. But unfortunately, as you can see, I was having some problems with the game being really sluggish and slow. I ended up having to reset the my system in order to fix this, but this wouldn't be the last time. And I didn't get to record myself actually catching the fish. But once I got done, headed back in the boat. Along the way, I uncovered another buoy for the warden. Safely ashore, I made my way up to the bridge to the location marked for me to go ahead and try and catch a fish. Here I learned about the differences with hook sizes and what was going to be able to be caught with them. After learning my lesson about the hooks, I made my way over to the edge of the bridge to go ahead and cast my line. Unfortunately, the system was a bit sluggish and slow right now, but I still threw the line out in the hopes that I could try to catch something. Luckily, I was able to get a fish on line, but because of the sluggishness of the system, it took a lot longer than I expected to reel this guy in. And this is something that you'll notice as well as I go through. For me, this fight probably took about 6 minutes to get this fish landed. And it was a battle. This guy just did not want to come in at all. And I was fighting not just the fish, but I was fighting my system as well. And it just was a little bit stressful, but I wasn't about to give up on this. This was my biggest challenge I had so far, and I was like excited about it. But this fish was not going to give up. Still persistence. It was trying to fight me. Jumping out of the water and trying to pull on my line no matter what. And as I said, after 6 minutes, I was finally able to secure my catch. And I got myself a largemouth bass. As you can see though, it said that the time it took me to land it was only 2 minutes and 36 seconds. That is not what I had to deal with. But with my first trophy, I was happy. Unfortunately, because I didn't catch it with the rod and gear setup that I was supposed to, it didn't count for the academy. So I changed my gear out. Proceeded down to a different location and made another attempt. Still fighting with the sluggishness of the system. I was like, I'm not going to deal with this. Retrieved my line and exited out and reset everything. Coming back, everything was working much more smoothly. After a few attempts of tossing the line out, I finally was able to retrieve yet another fish. This was a little bitty brock bass, a small little juvenile scoring of 1. While he wasn't the biggest fish ever, he helped me accomplish my goal and continue forward in the class. With my next objective, I needed to catch a fish on a size 7 hook. So I swapped it out again and set up the gear. Casting my line, hoping to retrieve another fish for this objective. Meanwhile, this one jumped out of the water, so I quickly retrieved my line, cast in its general direction, hoping that maybe I'd get something. Well, something I got. And let me tell you, this guy was a fighter. He quickly pulled my line out and he just wanted to keep going. You could see him out there jumping off in the distance. This was a fight. It's just like the largemouth bass that I just brought in. I had no idea what I was trying to wrangle in, but he gave me a good challenge. He wasn't making it easy on me in any way, shape, or form. After several minutes of wrestling back and forth, I was finally able to wear him down and bring him in. And lo and behold, I scored my very first walleye. A little silver, but still a nice little guy to catch. And therefore he became my second trophy. This also continued to advance my class. With the beginner's class 2 now under my belt, I was given yet another challenge to accomplish. Here I had to catch 5 more fish. So I'd throw my line out and cast. After a couple attempts, my first one I was able to score was this beautiful little walleye. Just a bronze, but he still helps. And after I released it back in, I noticed down there in the water there's another fish right nearby. So I just lobbed my line out there to hope see if I can catch it. Looking down, I saw the shape and outline of it. I hadn't caught this type of fish before, but I believe that was a shovel nose. But sure enough, it decided to take the bait, and it grabbed onto my line. And it took it. It just took the line on out. And again, another fight was underway. This was my biggest fight so far. We tousled back and forth for a long, long time. For most of that time, he stood out there about 180 feet or so, give or take a little bit, not wanting to get any closer. And after a while of me pulling on the line, trying to reel him in, increasing my drag, I started to wear him down. And this is what it's like to fish, folks. After 13 minutes, I was finally able to land this boy. And boy was I shocked to get my very first gold shovel-nosed sturgeon. Bigger than the other 2 trophies, by far, this one became my first gold trophy ever. Which made me super happy, as you can see. And then I hit a dry spell. And for the next 17 minutes, and several casts later, I caught nothing. Just me throwing my line out, waiting, and reeling it back in. And throwing my line out, waiting, and reeling it back in. Till finally I saw this guy down here in the water. And I was just trying to keep an eye on him. And luckily I had my line relatively close. And he decided to take interest in it, which worked out for me. He took the bait and proceeded to pull the line out. He didn't go fast. He was slow and steady, but the drag and me pulling on it didn't hinder him in any way. Eventually, he made out to about 70 feet there, and that's where our battle held out for a while. Before, like with the sturgeon, after a bit of hustle and tussle and pulling on line and fighting with them, he wore himself out and eventually started coming back in. Even though he's wore out, though, when he got close, he still didn't want to give up the fight. He just hung out there by the shoreline in the grass. Even after a little bit, with the little bit of strength he had left, he still tried to fight and move away. You can see he is not giving up the ghost. Eventually, I still landed him. I scored myself a silver walleye in the process. That ended up being my last catch for quite a while. And for almost the next hour, I was just throwing my line out over and over and over and over and over again with no luck. On top of that, I believe the fish were taunting and tormenting me. Here you can see they're just swimming down there on the shoreline, coming right by me, paying me no heed. Plus, I got to experience a couple jumpers right out there where my line was at. Almost as if they were laughing at me, saying, haha, can't catch us. So after a while, I decided to switch locations. Again, to no avail. And after a few attempts, once more I decided to shift my position. This one worked out better for me. And after I tossed my line and waited for a little bit, I was lucky to be able to get a nibble on it. Nibble? I guess that's an understatement. I got myself another fighter. This guy stayed as far away from me as he possibly could, pretty much on the opposite line over there with the other shore. He stayed there for quite some time, not wanting to give up any ground. But luckily, like with my last few fighters, I was eventually able to start wearing him down and bringing him in. till eventually I could see him under the water and I was able to secure the catch. Got myself a nice little silver sturgeon. And with his catch, I was able to secure my 4th fish and level up my experience. With one more to go, I threw my line out in the water. Little did I know that shortly after I cast it, this would become my 5th fish and one of my biggest challenges still. He stayed out there a long distance away, again on the opposite shoreline like the last fish, but this one kept jumping out of the water. This guy was by far the strongest fighter I've had to deal with up to this point. Trying to show me that he wasn't giving up the fight. He's like, here I am, you can't catch me, I'm not going to come. Repeatedly he jumped out of the water, as if to taunt and toy with me, saying, there's no way you're reeling me in, I'm a stronger fighter than you. And he did make it a challenge, but you could see several times it's like I never got any ground on him at all. He's just staying out there continuously, hopping out of the water, showing me exactly where he was located at, and that he wasn't going to budge. So I decided I was going to start shifting gears and trying to move the line to different positions to see if that would help out or not. Finally, it seemed like I was starting to make some headway and gain some traction and ground on him. Not to say it was any easier, but he was steadily making progress toward me, which made me happy. And off in the distance, I could see him fighting, jumping out of the water, still trying to get away from me, but losing ground. The fight was almost over. But after a 13-minute battle, I finally scored my trophy. I got a gold walleye. Here it said I only took 11 minutes to land him, but for me it was different, and that's where I said the syncing up didn't seem to match. But regardless, I got myself a beautiful trophy, and I'm very, very happy. With my 5th fish under my belt, I finished that challenge and was able to move on to the next academy objective, the advanced class. Here I would learn about lures, and following the guidance given me, I set myself up a rod with the appropriate spinner and fishing rod lure, and headed out to the next location. As I proceeded down the dock, I was given a quick tutorial on what I needed to do. With the simple objective of catching a fish with a spinner and a size 7 hook, I proceeded to throw my line in the water. Several times. I was determined I was going to get this fish. And after a few failed attempts, I finally got myself a bite. And with nowhere near the challenges I just recently had, I was able to land myself my first board trout. And with that catch, it helped me advance on the next objective for my class. Here, I had to catch a silver rank or higher brook trout. This would become a little bit more difficult task than I've experienced so far. First fish after my objectives began ended up being a rainbow trout. This is why I said it wasn't going to be easy, because there's other fish in the water, and to get a specific one would require a little bit of luck. And with repeated attempts, I kept casting my line, but the sun was setting and my day was ending. I figured it'd be best if I was to come back another day. So bright and early the next morning, I headed back out to the dock, where I proceeded to throw my line in hopes of catching this brook trout. Within a short period of time frame, I was able to snag my first fish, and after a little bit of a fight, I was able to wheel him on in. It was another trout, but it wasn't a brook trout. We had myself my second rainbow. Casting my line in again, I was hoping for the best, see what would happen. Fortunately, another fish jumped on the line shortly after I tossed it out there. And after a little battle, once more, I brought myself in another fish. And I was happy to find that this time I scored my brook trout. With that objective completed, I advanced it further into the class. And in doing so, I also advanced another level in experience. But like the last ones, it wasn't over yet, and this time I had to catch myself 3 silver ranked fish or higher. So I proceeded to go at it once more, casting my line over and over. Luckily, I didn't have to wait long before another fish took the bait. And after a little tussle, I had myself another rainbow trout, little bronze. But because he was a bronze, he didn't complete the objective. Not willing to give up, I continued to throw my line in hopes of catching something again. It didn't take me long, and I got another fish on the line. These little bronze trout were just continuing to make their presence known and to make my life difficult. Finally, after a few attempts, I was able to land myself my first silver, another oared trout. So with the first one in the bag, I was hoping to get the next two pretty quickly. Unfortunately, the rainbow trout continued to make my life difficult. I think they had a pack working together to make sure that I wasn't going to get the silver objectives I needed to. And yet another bronze rainbow trout. These guys are just becoming my bane. And not to be left undone, the oared trout decided to join in and laugh at me by letting me catch yet another bronze. So with repeated casts and unfortunately no lures in this time, I kept throwing my line in hopes that I would eventually get the silver that I need to. Finally, after much frustration, I finally got my first bite again. And this one ended up being a fight for its life once more. While I didn't seem to be pulling nearly as much as those golds did, it still gave me some difficulty. And after a few minutes of fighting, the unfortunate happened. My line snapped. Not willing to give up, I tossed my line in again to hopefully catch the fish. Maybe I could reel it in. Luckily, I did get it snagged pretty quickly after I tossed it. This time, though, as I pulled in the fish, it ended up being yet another bronze rainbow trout. So once more I was at it, throwing my lines and catching nothing, and throwing my lines and catching nothing. After a few failed attempts, I was able to secure yet another bite on my line. And this guy put up a pretty decent fight. I was feeling pretty hopeful. And when I finally landed him, sure enough, I got my second silver, another orid trout. Two down, one to go. I continue to press on. Casting my line again, very quickly I was able to score another bite on the hook. This one didn't have to fight very long, which I was grateful for. But even more grateful was when I finally landed it, and I found that this was going to be my third silver. I got yet another orid trout. These guys are my buddies. With that task completed, I was supposed to head back to the challenge board. And here I found I was going into the expert class. Making my way to the designated location, I found out that this was going to be a nighttime fishing session. So after taking a little power nap, I came back. Here I was given more guidance on what I needed to do. My objective this time, catch a gold ranch sauger using a jerkbait. So I went to look at my rod, got some more instructions on what the jerkbait would do. After I set the rod up, I threw it in the line, and lo and behold, what happens next was just amazing. Mind you, I had to use the stop and go technique here for this fish. Something that I've done before in Fishing Planet, and I've done it quite effectively, but for some reason here in the Angler, I've struggled to get this right, and stop and go is one of my least favorite techniques to fish in this game. But it worked out. After a little bit, I got a bite on the line. And with a slight battle, I reeled it in. Secured the catch, and surprised when I opened up and found that it was a gold sauger right off the bat. Not only did I score him on the first catch, but I also got an achievement here for completing him in under a minute. Another trophy-worthy fish. And here's where I got some more guidance on what I needed to do. Now I would have to start learning about the fish and picking their locations based upon the knowledge I was provided in my handbook. The task at hand, I had to find a location for another pike, so taking the guidance of what I read in the handbook on the location and getting some of their key factors, I set out to find a good spot to try for them. After quick travel to that location, I headed down to the shoreline. Here I threw my line out in the water, but as you can tell, it was sluggish again, and I was having difficulties. So once more, I exited out of the system to reset everything. And as I returned, everything was moving much more smoothly so I can attempt to catch my fish. Unfortunately, the first one I snagged didn't work out too well for me, and the line snapped. Trying again, I was able to get another fish on pretty quickly. And after about a 3-minute fight, started to get this guy near the shore. You could see him in the water down there. So close. As I rotated to try and get a better position, he snapped the line and got away. Undeterred, I continued to try a few more times here to try and catch myself a fish. I was happy when I got another bite on the line, and this one gave me yet another challenge for the day. Like a few others have before, he went out to about the 170 foot mark and stayed there for quite some time, fighting and not wanting to go any further but not coming in either. This battle lasted quite a while. All in all, it took me over 7 minutes before I finally wore him down and was able to bring him into the shoreline. But there he is, hanging out down in the water, so close. So close, but not wanting to come in. Still trying to fight to get away. But after a little bit more, I finally won the upper hand and was able to land him. Scoring myself my first tiger muskie. And if this was what the bronze was like, I can only imagine what the higher trophy levels would be. Regardless, I felt he was worth another trophy. At this point, I had to get on a new location trying to catch some pike. So I quickly traveled to there, made my way down the shoreline. Along the way, I ended up finding yet another Bigfoot track.
Don't know how you're putting up with this fool's errand, Buck. Patience of a saint. 2 left.
But once I made it to the shore, here I ended up casting and casting and casting again, to no avail. Finally, after several attempts, I was able to get myself another bite on the line. Like the other fish before him, this one continued to hang out around that same 170, 180 foot marker that they seem to like so much. But after tugging and pulling and making it difficult for him, he eventually started to wear down. And after 4 minutes, I was finally able to start bringing him in and I could see him. Finally, I got myself my pike. Little bronze, but still worth the task at hand. And with another objective completed, I was given the task to go to the souvenir shop. Here I learned about the souvenir trophy system and reputation. After that, I kind of perused the wares to see what I might be able to buy eventually. They had some pretty interesting items. And that completed all the training, and now Taylor gave me one final challenge. I had to get myself a fish a gold rank or higher. Taking this knowledge, I decided to get some rest and start out on a brand new day. Made my way down to the dock, hopped in a boat, and I decided to head back to the location where I'd caught myself the 2 goldfish before over by the bridge. Unfortunately, once I got over there, It wasn't working out in my favor this time. And after cast after cast after cast after cast, with no fish even taking the bite, I was beginning to get a little bit leery that it wasn't going to happen. Especially when I cast a line and the fish jumped right out of the water near it. Lucky for me though, something decided to take the bait. And here I was like, alright, fine, I got myself a chance. Let's see what kind of fish I'd pull in. This one ended up being a big, big fighter. You can see at this point, he took me out, not the normal 170 feet, but way out to the 200-foot range and kept going. And after battling him back and forth for 13 minutes, I think he finally had enough. And he said, I'm not playing with you anymore. And he just took off. And I lost the battle. Undeterred, I decided to try my luck again, so I threw another line out. And on my very next cast, once more, I snagged myself a fish. Not sure, I think I might have got the same one that just got away, because this guy, again, gave me a fight and pulled my line out almost instantly. And after another 9-minute battle, back and forth, and struggle and struggle and struggle, once more, this fish decided he had had enough playing with me and decided to take off. Resulting in another line snap. Here I tossed my line in a couple more times trying to get myself something, anything. And luckily that prayer was answered because I was able to score myself another fish. This time a smallmouth bass, just a little silver, but it was something. Throwing my line again, hoping for another bite, caught the attention via another fish. This one came out of nowhere, beeline straight for the line, and took the bait instantly. Even from where I was at, I could see it looked like it was going to be a pretty big fish. And while it didn't take my line out to 200 feet away, it still was enough to snap it and break free. Regardless, I was able to toss the line out there and get myself something as a redeeming quality. This time I pulled in another northern pike. Little did I know that for that pike challenge, this would have been an ideal spot to come and get, because that pike would not be the last one I was going to catch over in this location for the day. But yet again, I was dealing with struggles. Fish getting on the lines, and after short little battles, I'd end up like losing them because they'd snap the line. This was a frustration I was going to continue to deal with several times throughout the course of the day. Regardless, I was finally actually able to secure myself another fish, this time another bronze pike. But after this one, I went through another dry spell where I cast my line over and over and over again with nothing catching onto it. It's probably went this way for about a good 30 or 40 minutes. Luckily, dry spells don't last forever, and once more I was able to cast a line out and secure myself another bite. Didn't put up much of a fight, but once more another pike was brought in on the line. At this point I decided to take a break, rest, and I came back on another day. Starting again, I secured myself another fish on the line, and right off the bat is yet another pike that came in. After tossing the line, scored another fish. And this one again, once more, was another northern pike. This would lead to yet another dry spell, where the fish would jump out of the water and taunt and torment me. But after repeated casts, I would not be able to catch anything for, again, another 20 or 30 minutes or so. But once I did, you can guess it, after a little battle, I pulled myself in yet another bronze northern pike. Seems like these fish were going to be coming out of my ears. The next fish that I was able to secure on the line gave me a little bit of a challenge that I wasn't expecting. It didn't take long to catch him or to reel him in, but once I got him in, I had a hard time landing him because it kept getting too much tension on the line to secure the catch. Surprisingly, it was yet another northern pike, so I'm not sure what caused that situation, but hey. A few more misfires later, once more, I threw my line and secured yet another northern pike. These bronze pikes just seem to be flourishing in these waters. Finally, I had enough and said I needed to change location. All these bronzes wouldn't get me anywhere near the gold. So I head back over to the other shoreline where I caught my first goldfish. It didn't seem to be any better though for me in this location than it had been in any of the other ones so far. First fish at this location ended up being yet another bronze. In this case though, a smallmouth bass. A couple more tosses later secured me yet another fight. This one, short-lived, would bring me yet another bronze northern pike. Because of all this, I decided I want to try and change out my gear situation. So I went and undid all my lines and reset up everything brand new in the hopes that this would secure me bigger fish. Taking this new setup for a spin, I again tossed my line out in the water. It would take me a few more tries before something would finally get on the line once more. But at least this time I got it from bronze, but it was still only a silver. The next fish decided that I was going to repeat the trend. So after I secured it on the line, and reeled it in, I found that I had scored yet another silver. This case, though, it helped me increase my level with this catch. After that, the next fish that I attempted to reel in once more snapped my line. My problems persisted. And so did the northern pike. I had a nice surprise this time when I cast line out. The fellow fisherman was swimming by on the boat at the same point I was trying to reel in a fish. Luckily, it didn't disturb it anyway. And after a little bit of a fight, I was able to still land the guy. A beautiful largemouth bass, but still just a silver. From here, I continued to cast my line several more times before I'd finally get myself another bite. Unfortunately, I didn't get to find out if this was going to be yet another northern pike because the line snapped. But once more, I decided I was going to take a rest and start back over fresh another day. Upon my return, cast my line in the water again, and with the first cast, got myself a bite. After reeling it in, my nemesis continued, another pike. Several more failed attempts later would result in yet another similar situation. None of my fish were getting any higher than bronze. So once more, I opted to change locations. I headed back to the spot where I got my first pike at because I heard that there's supposed to be some big fish there. Throwing my line out a couple times was still uneventful. So I opted to try something different. I headed over to the dock and got myself into another boat. Here I proceeded out found another buoy for the warden.
You know, when I was a kid, I never could have dreamed I'd be working with robots. Don't worry, I ain't talking about you, Buck. Bleed blue 3/4 through.
As well as another set of plants. Finally, I decided to drop anchor, set up a spot, and throw my line out. I hope the change of location and scenery would do something different for me. After a couple false starts, once more I got myself another bite on the line. This guy was another little fighter. Nowhere near as difficult as some of the other ones, but I was hoping that this would be my chance to get myself the gold. Once I pulled him in, unfortunately, he was still just a silver. Another northern pike under my belt. My next cast resulted in a very quick catch. In this case, it was a bronze tiger muskie. A couple more attempts later, and another fish was really interested in what I had to offer. So it took the bait, and after a short tussle, I was able to land him as well. This was a nice silver tiger muskie. I love these fish. And wouldn't you know, it wouldn't be anything if I didn't throw my line out a few more times without having any success. And the one time I finally did get myself a fish on the line, I had another challenging fight. Gave me a few minutes of a battle. But once more, in the end, resulted in the line snapping. The next cast was pretty quick. And after a very short battle, I secured the fish and was surprised to find I caught myself another oared trout. Didn't think they'd be in this location. So once more, I tossed my line far out in the distance in the water. Here I saw a fish jump out just before another one snagged my line. And after a little battle, once more I brought him into the boat. In this case, another northern pike. Still a bronze, not a gold. I was beginning to get disheartened that I would never get this gold anytime soon. It's been a long day at this point, and I've been fighting an uphill battle, catching nothing but bronze and silvers. So when I tossed the line out this time, and it actually got a bite, I hoped against hope that eventually I would be able to get myself a gold. And this guy was starting to prove that this might be the case. He took my line and started pulling it out really quickly. 100 feet to 150 feet. to 170 feet. Sticking out there, fighting it out like all the rest of them usually have been. This gave me a good hopeful sign that maybe this was the one. After peaking at about 180 feet and all the pulling and fighting we did with each other, he started to wear out and he started to come in. Slowly but surely, he crept down to 110 to 70 feet and kept getting closer and closer. "25 feet, I saw him jump out of the water, and I was stoked. This guy was a nice battle, and I'm hoping against hoping that this was going to be the one finally. But lo and behold, I landed him, and I scored my gold. Another northern pike, but it was the task completed. This guy was big, and he made me really, really happy. So with the last objective completed for Taylor's tackle class, I graduated. I leveled up, got a bunch of gear, and was rewarded with a few extra credits. Ecstatic that that was done, I still didn't want to give up fishing, so I decided I wanted to head out for one more location here. Found another spot and placed a marker on the map for the mission. But before I get there, I want to do something at Taylor's Tackles real quick. I decided to buy myself a boat. This way I can unlock an achievement that I've been wanting. Bidding Taylor farewell, I headed out. Got in the boat, took off, and made my way towards my marker. Cruising along the waterway was really, really nice. It's kind of scenic and just very, very relaxing. Along the way, I was able to find another one of the plants for the warden.
I'm making tiny napkins for all them beans, but their table manners are atrocious. We're almost water hyacinth free. Just a quarter left.
And while the drive was long, it was still enjoyable. It's nothing nicer than being able to just be able to cruise out there on the water. I quickly found the map location and head over to the shoreline, where I proceeded to disembark. Found a good spot on the shore, decided to do a little bit of research. Channel catfish is what I wanted to get here, and so I found out what they desired and their traits and skills. And while I know they're a nocturnal fish, I decided I wanted to test out the lines real quick, and so I threw one in the water. My first cast snagged something right off the bat. This guy, whatever it was a fighter. Another beast. A beast under the water. He kept pulling my line, going further and further out. Slowly and steady, but still away. He reached that 171 8-foot range, and you could see that the strain was on the line. $190, still there. I didn't figure this was going to be a difficult task because I had my drag up to 80 and it wasn't like causing it to go super, super red. But still, it was a fight. And after 5 minutes of finding it, and even though it never got super red or got to the point where it seemed like it was going to do anything drastic, the fish decided it was going to take off, even with a drag of 80, and it snapped my line. So I tried it one more time with the bottom feeder, as well as the float feeder set to the lowest point. But with nothing happening, I decided to change it once more to go to the nighttime. Setting up my gear, I wanted to test out the new glow-in-the-dark bobber, to see how that worked out. Tossing it in the water, you could see that it was pretty bright and clear to notice even in the dark conditions. Pretty sweet. Almost immediately, I got a bite on the line. And I was able to secure the catch. Lo and behold, I got myself a silver sturgeon, another nocturnal fish, but it wasn't the channel cat I was looking for. So I tried again. And again, pretty quickly after throwing the line, I got another bite. In a short battle later, brought the guy to shore, pulled him in, and found that he got another sturgeon. At this point, I decided to take a little jaunt across the shoreline because while I was fishing for him, I noticed that there was a tree over there that needed to be identified. Quickly marking the tree for the warden, I went down to the dock line to try my luck one more time before calling it quits for this session. I wanted to see if I could get myself another fish. And it didn't take long before something was on the line, and the battle began. And I'll let you guys know, this was another long battle. I think it took about 3 or 4 minutes before it was finished. But this was going to end up being my last fight for the day. And anyways, for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and call it here as I'm reeling this in. This has been a fun session. It's been interesting to learn. And I am grateful to have the experience under my belt now to say I know a little bit more about fishing than I did before. I've been able to catch bigger fish, and that's made me happy, and I'm looking forward to coming back and doing it again. This was a long session for me, though, and it was unexpected. I spent probably over 10 hours out here fishing over the course of the weekend, and I probably got about 9.5 hours of video footage of it, not expecting to necessarily make this video. But in the end, I believe it was worth it. It's a long time, a lot of editing, and I'm exhausted from doing it, but I am happy, and I hope you guys enjoy the results. But until next time, I wish you guys all the best. Happy fishing. Take care. God bless. Bye. And as I stated at the beginning, I want to show you guys my progression. When I was first playing, I hadn't gotten more than 6 types of fish, and nothing higher than a silver. But after taking Taylor's tackle class, I've now completed up to 16 fish categories, and I've gotten 3 golds amongst them. I'm looking forward to continuing from here.